All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, as we are preparing to get underway for tonight's GT3 Pro race for the X League here, and it's going to be at the Daytona road course. This race is going to be run from evening into night conditions, so be prepared for that. The tires are going to be getting plenty cool under high speed going down the main straightaway. We're also likely going to see some interesting strategies play out based off of how the Porsche Cup race went last night. In just a little bit, we'll get underway proper with the event here. All right, so real quick, let's go ahead and look over some of the drivers who will be partaking in today's event. Sadly, it looks like we're not getting most of the paint schemes loaded for whatever reason, but we can look at some of the drivers taking part. CLN Clinical in the Dodge and Maserati Racer in the Ferrari. Both of these drivers were not able to complete all of their qualifying runs, so they're going to be starting near the rear of the grid for today's event. Breezy Rain is going to be in the number 17 Chevrolet. TCPP Photo will be in the number 43 Aston Martin. It's Maze will be in the number 13 Chevrolet. F1R Geekin, last night's winner, will be in the number 63 BMW. Rebirth Quint will be in the number 3 Dodge. NDL Shadow will be in another one of the BMW entries. Jeff DXD is going to be in one of your 4 GT entries, along with Car Rebuilds, who came close but no cigar in last night's Porsche Cup race. Tempered Ship 142 will be in the number 21 Chevrolet. Agent Diesel will be in the number 88 Aston Martin Vantage. SSR Quinn will be in the number 42 Dodge Viper. Les Railgun will be in a Ford GT. Dex Carino will be in a BMW. Carr Matthews will be in another Ferrari. And that will be your grid for today's event. We are looking at what should be a 16, I believe, car grid for today's event tonight. As everyone is getting readied up, real quickly, we are going to go ahead and try to pull up the championship standings as they are right now, assuming that they are properly accurate, and we'll get you up to speed on how that's looking right now. In the team's championship, Chevrolet has 1 point. There's no way that's accurate. No, that's because I'm looking at the wrong category. I do apologize for that. In the team's championship, Porsche is at the bottom with only 40 points. Dodge has 200 points. BMW has 214 points and 4 wins. Ferrari has 232 points. Aston Martin 331 points. Ford is second with 419 points and 4 wins, and Chevrolet is still at the top with 487 points on the season. In the Drivers' Championship, 26th is Arrow with 9 points, 25th is Subaru with 12 points, 24th is Front Wheel Drive Jordy with 15 points, 23rd is SSR Quinn with 27 points, 22nd is Low Kid Suave with 30 points, which puts him into a tie with Inlaid Wheat for 21st. 20th is Dex Twilight with 31 points, 19th is SPV Matthews with 36 points, 18th is VNX Runes, who also has 36 points. 17th is Sir Brandy A1 with 43 points. 16th is Maserati Racer with 49 points. 15th is HGR Turtle with 61 points. 14th is NDL Aeolus with 66 points. 13th is Diesel with 74 points. 12th is Leswick with 75 points. 11th is Tempered with 76 points. 10th is TCPP Photo with 77 points. 9th is NWR Arkina with 84 points. 8th is SRT Jeff DXD with 87 points. Then you get to a bit of a jump. 7th is Rebirth with 112 points. 6th is NDL Violet with 117 points, which puts him to a tie with Dex Carino, who also starts in 5th with 117 points, but Carino has 2 wins at this point in the season. Then you get to your championship contenders. 4th is Breezy Ring with 171 points, but they need to start having some good things fall their way if they want to keep themselves in the championship fight. I think realistically we can count them out of it. 3rd is NDL Shadow with 207 points and 2 wins. 2nd is Maze with 210 points after that fantastic podium run he had last week. And then leading the championship is Les Railgun with 227 points at this stage of the event, at this stage of the season right now. So again, this race, we're going to get underway here. It's going to be, by the looks of it, a little bit brighter at the start of this race than what it was in the Porsche Cup race. Again, if you joined us for the Porsche Cup race last night, it was pretty much dark all the way through, ran entirely at the nighttime circumstances. This time, however, it looks like we'll be starting under slightly brighter conditions, and it will turn dark as the race goes on. So we're actually going to see some changes in handling of the cars as the event progresses here. For those of you who watched this channel for a long time, you'll probably remember about 2 years ago, we had a GT3 series I covered run under the IESC banner. They had a Daytona race that started at night and went into the day, and you saw some of the cars have drastic handling characteristics changing between the night and day cycles. This one going a more traditional day into night. We could still be looking at some very drastic changes in handling throughout this event. Another thing to wonder about is going to be the competitiveness. Daytona is such a heavily draft-focused circuit. What we typically see is that in races, cars that are not very fast in the straightaways but have a lot of speed in the infield section end up performing abnormally well here. The main reason is that the draft is so strong, it keeps them right on top of the other drivers who are on cars that are faster in the straights but slower in the infield sections. So that may be something else to keep an eye on. That's not really going to be something that would be represented in qualifying proper, though. We're going to go ahead as they try to get the grid ordered up here. We'll take a Twitch-mandated ad break now, and when we come back, we'll get to the race. Just like last night, we're going to try and capture at least the entire first half of the race, assuming there are no cautions, at least the entire first half of the race under green flag circumstances with no ad breaks. So we'll be back momentarily here at Daytona. All right, well, we are now beginning our pace lap here. Real quickly, we're going to go ahead and use the rail camera feature to look at the entire grid at the start here. Your pole setter is Car Rebuilds in the number 6 Milwaukee Ford. After that will be F1R Geek in the 63 BMW, followed by Les Railgun in the 67 Ford. After that will be Indy L Shadow here in the 27 BMW. After that, you will have Dex Carino in the 69 BMW, then Jeff DXD in another Ford. It goes all the way down to 7th position. It's Maze as your first non-Ford or BMW entry in the number 13 Chevrolet. Then, starting in 8th will be Breezy Rain in another Chevrolet, the number 17. After that will be Rebirth Quint. This is the number 3 Dodge. This camera is way too close. I don't know why it's insisting on being so close. Then after that will be Tempered Chip 142 in the number 21 Chevrolet. After that will be SSR Quint, starting 11th in the number 42 Dodge. Then TCPP Photo, number 43 Aston Martin, followed by Agent Diesel in the number 88 Aston Martin, and CLA Clinical in the number 1 Dodge, followed by Maserati Racer in the number 94 Ferrari, and Carr Matthews, last place starter, he is going to be in the number 27 Ferrari. And that will be your rundown for our 16-car grid for today's field. And we do want to give a quick shout of thanks to Savage6647 for performing some pace car duties for us tonight. This field is significantly larger than we had in last night's race in the Porsche Cup. So it could be interesting. We may actually have a threat of yellow flag circumstances in this event. So just keep an eye on that as the event unfolds here. And we may have an issue at the back of the grid. That is Car Matthews, who has fallen way off the pace for some reason. And the car is damaged. It's not even been the end of the pace lap. And Car Matthews has had catastrophic damage to the nose of his Ferrari. So now the question is, are they going to push off the start of the race, or are we going to go green regardless? But in either case, this takes a sledgehammer to the knees of the Ferrari teams. And it looks like the field is already preparing to double up here. I think we're going to be going green irregardless, and Car Matthews is going to be in an awfully unenviable position, being wrecked before they even got to the bus stop chicane on the pace lap. Savage pulling off circuit now, so we will be going green this time, but you'll see Car Matthews pull off in the back of the field as he has to get his car repaired for damage. So we will have 15 cars coming to the start-finish line to take the green flag, and we are underway here at Daytona. Rebuilt on the inside, Geekin on the outside. These were the two fighting for the win last night. What's it going to be this night? A little bit of contact, BMW on BMW action. That's enough to let Car Rebuilds get right into the lead without too much issue. Les Railgun putting some pressure on Geekin. What can Railgun do to the big boy BMW? It doesn't look like a whole lot. He's now trapped on the outside as they go into the International Horseshoe for the first time tonight. And the 63 BMW has enough traction, has enough speed to get ahead of the 67. So our top three go back to where they started. Then you have Dex Carino there in 4th position, hanging out as well. Then Jeff, and look at that, it's Mays is already trying to fight his way into the top 6 positions, trying to figure out a way around Indy El Shadow. Not able to make it stick, and now under threat from teammate Breezy Rain, and that is TCPP Photo there. And Aston Martin trying to fight their way upwards through the grid right now. Looks to the inside of Breezy Rain. Can't make anything of it. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, this is going to be where it's very important to see what the draft does. All these cars are going to have different handling characteristics, different top speed characteristics. Is F1R Geekin going to be in a position where he can get some ridiculous advantages thanks to the draft? Or is that advantage going to go to Car Rebuilds? With the Ford GT be the one with the ridiculous advantages here? Heavy under the brakes as they go into the bus stop chicane this time by. As they come out of it, it looks like the BMW had a fantastic exit out of the bus stop chicane. Geekin immediately going and looking to the outside, side by side for a lead here at Daytona as the round Speedway turn 3. Now Speedway turn 4. The 6 and 63 are still in a dead heat with each other, with Les Railgun and the Ford GT running right behind his teammate in the number 6. The Ford GTs are nose to tail as they hold the inside line. Rebuild tries to lead. He will still lead at the line just barely over F1R Geekin. Geekin still on the outside now as they fire it down into turn 1, but he has to go wide so as not to make contact with Railgun. Railgun is going to try and make the pass, but he can't make it stick. Geekin does the crossover on the exit of turn number 1. A little bit of contact for GT on BMW action, and now they come into the International Horseshoe again. Again, a little bit more contact. The BMW is on the outside, has plenty of traction out there, but he's not able to clear the Ford GT this time. They're going to be side by side as they go through the high-speed bend. The BMW has the inside line, the preferred lane choice, and the Ford GT of Les Railgun backs out again just before they get into the second infield hairpin. No changes still at the top of this field right now. In fact, there's been no changes whatsoever in the top 6 positions. They are all running exactly where they started pretty much. So while the draft is keeping them all nice and tight, the question might end up being fuel tank size. How long is it going to take for them to refill when they make their pit stops? On to Speedway turns 1 and 2 once again now. Rebuilds, Geekin, Railgun is your top 3 with Dex Carino in 4th and Shadow in 5th and Jeff DXD in 6th. Mays is ranked 7th, the highest of your Chevrolets right now. The field now fires off down into the bus stop chicane one more time. A little bit of a twist from Car Rebuilds just as he got into the braking, and Geekin once again closes in under braking. Can he get another good exit out of the corner? He does get a good exit, not quite as dominant as the exit was last time though. But he's still close enough that he can utilize the draft to possibly pull to the outside of Car Rebuilds and try and make it side by side. Here it is. He looks to the outside as they come out of Speedway turn 4. Again, Les Railgun pulls up right behind his teammate Car Rebuilds side by side at the line, but the leader at the line this time, it looked like it was... the game says it was Rebuilt, but it looks like it was Geekin ahead from my screen. And again, Geekin is wide, but this time, Railgun does a much better job trying to keep the BMW behind. So now, it is Ford GT running 1-2 on track with F1R Geekin slipping back to the 3rd spot. He's now going to look to the outside, going into the first of the International Horseshoes. He's once again gets a really good amount of traction and acceleration coming out of the hairpin. And he's right on the rear wing now of Les Railgun. But this may give Car Rebuilds a chance to try and open a gap a little bit and try to focus on just sheer pace going forward. Les Railgun still keeping F1R Geekin right behind. Then Dex Carino is now there in fourth, watching this all go down. TCPP Photo has just gotten by Breezy Rain and Maze, it seems. There's a lot of argy-bargy between the Aston Martins and the Chevrolets. Reminder, the Chevrolets are trying to fight for the Manufacturers' Championship right now. And on top of that, Maze is currently second in driver's points, although really he is nowhere close to his rivals in the championship right now in Geekin and Shadow. So this is not going well for Maze right now for the Drivers' Championship. And really, it's not looking that good for him in the Manufacturers' Championship either, because right now, Ford is running 1-2 on track. F1R Geekin now behind Les Railgun. It looked like Railgun went a little bit wide just to try and cut off some of the momentum, some of that run that Geekin had coming out of the bus stop chicane. Still, Geekin has the advantage of draft, and this time he's not going to have another car on the inside. If he wants to go to the outside of Railgun, he's not going to see Railgun being pushed by someone else. But no, it's going to be Railgun who looks to the outside. Railgun goes to the outside of Rebuilds. Ford on Ford, teammate action at the head of the field. What is Geekin going to do? Geekin is still going to elect to go wide. And there's a little bit of contact. I think Rebuilds may have hit the inside wall. And if Rebuild hit the inside wall, that would be all it took for Railgun to go into the lead. Railgun goes in the lead now. And Car Rebuilds is back to fight with Geekin. But now there's a fight for second position as Les Railgun, one of their championship contenders, probably the man of the championship, has really been hyper-focused on the lead. He now goes into the lead here at Daytona. And Geekin is now still stuck in third position. He just can't seem to clear either of these Ford GTs. It may be a case that the Ford GTs are the cars that are a little bit stronger here than the BMWs. Though, although I say that, you have Geekin, Carino, and Shadow running third, fourth, and fifth in a perfect line behind this leading duo of Ford GTs right now. A bit of a twitch there by Car Rebuilds as they come out of the infield section into Speedway Turn 1. Rebuilds will have the draft, and he'll be able to use that to close in on his teammate Les Railgun right now. Real quick, let's go ahead and look at the tire wear of our top 5 drivers. 20.9% here for Railgun. For Rebuilds, who runs in second position, he is at 21.4%. Then Geekin, who runs in third place in that BMW, is at 21.6%. Dex Carino hanging out just behind this fight, but not really making any moves. He's at 22.2%. And then Indiel Shadow, who hangs out in the 5th spot on track, he is at 23% right now. And just for kicks, Jeff DXC, who is way farther out from this group, kind of running by himself, 22.7% right now. Okay, once again, we look at this group as it comes firing down into turn 1. Ford GT looks to the outside once again. And he's going to go the long way around, but the car takes too much speed. He's going to go in Carino, Shadow, and Rebuilds all went off circuit there. And that's going to give Geekin second position now. And Rebuilds loses a bunch of time to Geekin and Railgun now. This is great news for Geekin. If he wants a shot to try and make something happen against Railgun, this is the best chance for it to happen now. So despite accusations that the BMW should have a better straight line speed, they have not been able to make the moves necessary to get into the lead. Even with the draft, they're able to pull up alongside, but they are not able to clear other cars, well, at least not the Ford GTs. They're not able to clear them side by side. And we still have this 5-car breakaway at the head of the field. Railgun, Geekin, Rebuilds, Carino, and Shadow right now. Ford GTs 1-3, BMW 2nd, 4th, and 5th right now. For the Chevrolets, well, Breezy Rain has made his way up into 7th. It's Maze is in 8th position right now. And when it comes to strategy, just remember, last night, a set of medium tires could take you 12 laps, but a set of hard tires could do the exact same thing. And while you would be a little bit slower earlier in the event, you would have less pace. And here comes the move by Geekin to the outside. Is he finally going to be able to show us what this BMW is capable of? Neck and neck, side by side, Ford GT versus BMW now as they come out of Speedway Turn 4. There is a dead heat between these two as they go down the front straightaway, but it does look to me like Geekin is just starting to get the nose ahead, but no, he is not. It is still Les Railgun who leads as they came across the line. Geekin goes really deep under braking, going into turn number 1, slides wide. Here comes Railgun, and Railgun's gonna hold the lead. Here comes Rebuilds, but Rebuilds can't make it alongside. 5 drivers all stuck on top of each other, but no one. Here comes a move to the inside. Geekin goes deep, going into the first of the International Horseshoes. He's gonna have the inside line as they come out of there. Railgun on the outside, but that will put him back on the inside in this high-speed bend. Are they gonna go side by side through the high-speed bend? They do! And the BMW now will have the inside line going into the braking zone. He gets touched from behind by car Rebuilds going into the braking zone. 2 by 2 by 2 just for a moment there. And finally, Geekin clears Railgun and Rebuilds. The BMW finally goes into the lead in the infield section. So while the thought was that the BMW had superior straight line speed, it was a move made in the infield section. It was high aggression, going deep, going very aggressively deep, under braking into the first of the infield infield hairpins, the International Horseshoe, that put Geekin in a position that he could take the lead. But now, Les Railgun is in second. The Ford GT will be in the position to maybe try and fight back. He gets right under the number 63 as they go into the bus stop chicane, but that BMW has been fantastic on the exit. And he's just as good this time as well. While the Ford GTs are close enough to get a draft, it does not look like they're going to be close enough to really do anything to them. I think Geekin is going to have this. Are we going to see Geekin sweep the weekend? That is the big question. Of course, there's still a lot of race to happen, but Geekin put himself on what everyone thought was a suboptimal strategy. I would argue it still was. And no, at the line, it was still Railgun who led. Railgun poked his nose to the outside and still had his nose ahead as they went across the start-finish line. Technically, BMWs have not led a lap yet. It has been Ford GTs leading every time they come across the line. And here comes Railgun to the outside as they go into the horseshoe once again. But this time, I imagine the BMW will be in the same position as last time. Better traction, better speed. But this time, Railgun's right there. They're going to be side by side again as they go into this infield bend. High-speed bend through here. The 67 gets the nose ahead. But the 63 has the ideal lane of choice through there. Although he's wide, blazing wide, they're briefly 3 wide. The Ford GTs are side by side. And Geekin goes from first to third as he misses the turn-in spot. And now Railgun goes back to the lead. Geekin to the inside of car Rebuilds. Does a little bit of door-to-door contact there because it just gets a little bit tight through there. As they come back onto the oval section of the track, yes, Geekin should be able to take second. At least you would think so, although car Rebuilds is still right there on his outside. There's another dead heat drag race between a Ford GT and a BMW, but now they have Dex Carino right there in fourth position. Watching as this plays out, now car Rebuilds backs out of it. Geekin retains second position, but once again, we see Les Railgun continuing to lead here. Out of the bus stop chicane and now into the banked corners of Speedway turns 3 and 4. Geekin will get a draft, I imagine, off of Les Railgun. Might be able to close in. Does he try and make a big dive bomb going into turn 1, or does he wait and try to set for another big move into the first of the infield horseshoe corners? Infield hairpins, the International Horseshoes, into turn 1. No reason for Geekin to go wide through here. Nice clean line, and immediately he's right back on Les Railgun's rear wing. Through the little bit of an S there. And now diving into the heavy braking zone. But look at that, Rebuilds is the one who goes deep into the braking, but he backs out. He does not want to make contact with the number 63 car. Railgun still leads though. Geekin still second. Rebuilds is slipped back to third now, and Indy El Shadow is actually moved by Dex Carino. These 5 cars are in a breakaway from the rest of the field right now. Jeff DXC kind of runs all by himself in 6th position, but doesn't really seem to be able to do anything. Then it is It's Maze in the Chevy leading Aiden Diesel and the Aston Martin for 7th and 8th positions right now. Of note, Quinn, Clinical, Rebirth Quint, and Matthews all well off pace, and TCPP Photo must have had some sort of accident or incident that we have not been able to cover. He has fallen all the way back to last place, 42 seconds off the lead right now. Okay, Geekin has the draft on the Ford GT. There's no one behind to influence this fight. What is Geekin going to try and do this time? He looks to the inside as they come into the braking zone, but Les Railgun has no problem diving into the corner a little bit later. But the BMW has been really good coming out of the slower corners, has great traction. You can just see he hits that throttle, and Geekin is able to get that car, hook up, and go. And now he's transferring that into straight line speed capability. He's got the draft on Les Railgun as they come out of the banked quarters and now back down to the start-finish line again. Technically at the line, 4 GTs have led every lap. Are we going to see that again? No! It looks like Railgun got off the throttle. Geekin finally leads a lap. Agent Diesel pitting farther back in the field, so likely he put on soft tires. Wow, that was one of the BMWs back there, went way wide. I think that may have been Shadow, one of your championship contenders. And Les Railgun is big time sideways as they came out of the S's. And all of a sudden, Geekin has a massive lead over second position as Car Rebuilds and Dex Carino are still fighting back here. Yeah, all of a sudden, Geekin went from struggling just to get to the lead, where now all of a sudden, he looks nice and happy as a clam. He has already broken the draft on Les Railgun. So Geekin goes into the top spot now. We look at his tires, he's at 44% on his most worn tire right now. I look at Les Railgun, who runs in second position. He is at 43% on his most worn tire. Car Rebuilds, who runs in third, he is at 43.8% on his most worn tire. Dex Carino, who is in fourth position, his most worn tire, 44.7%. And Indiel Shadow, the fifth and final driver in this 5-car breakaway at the head of the field, he is at 46% right now on his tires. So everyone here seems to be on the same tire compound. We believe they are all running the mediums. Last night, Geekin did not go 12 laps on his first set of mediums. He didn't have the fuel to. He only went 10 laps. But that put him in a position where he ran most of the rest of the race in clean air. He did mediums again in the middle stint of the race and then threw on hards for a 14-lap run to the end, and they worked fine for him. Are we going to see Geekin try to replicate that today, or does he go and convert to a more traditional two-stop strategy, medium, all the way through? The race is the same length. Other things to consider, this race did not start in the nighttime conditions. This is starting in the daytime conditions and then gone to the night. For a second, Car Rebuilds looking to the outside of Les Railgun here. While Les Railgun may be fighting for a championship, it seems like Car Rebuilds doesn't care, and there's a little bit of contact between the teammates. Car Rebuilds still holds on to second position. And Les Railgun is still third, but now Rebuilds is wide, and it's going to let Railgun get to his inside as they go into the first International Horseshoe. The 67 puts the power down, and he's through. Railgun clears Rebuilds, and now Carino is going to get alongside Car Rebuilds, and Carino tried to complete the overtake on the 6. I think he's going to be able to do it. He does! So it is BMW 4, BMW as your top 5 right now, but Geekin has pretty much broken the draft and is now out in his own lonesome at the head of the field. So yes, it does seem like F1R Geekin is going to sweep this weekend's races. That was dirty! Indiel Shadow goes for an impossible dive bomb that was never going to work and just doors Car Rebuilds right off the circuit. That might get looked at post-race. We'll definitely be interested to see if that gets looked at post-race. But Indiel Shadow just door slams Rebuilds right off the circuit right before they get onto the banked corners once again. And Shadow goes up into fourth spot now. All right, and now at this point, let's go ahead and look at the penalties earned thus far. F1R Geekin, 0.7 seconds of penalty. Les Railgun, no penalties yet. Dex Carino, not looking great for him, 2.2 seconds of time penalties. And then Indiel Shadow back there in fourth, 4.7 seconds of penalties. The only other driver with time penalties right now is Tempered Chip in eighth with only 0.8, and TCPP Photo with 0.6 seconds. It seems like the BMW drivers are fast, but they are very aggressive, maybe too aggressive and playing too risky with the track limits as this is going on, as they seem to be earning penalties faster than anybody else. A big wide line there by Dex Carino, so Les Railgun is able to hold on to second for just a little bit longer. Reminder, F1R Geekin is not really a factor in the championship fight, and for Les Railgun, if he came home second, well, his closest rival in the championship, It's Maze, is buried down there in sixth, and Indiel Shadow is right now in fourth with a huge chunk of time penalties, so this wouldn't hurt Les Railgun too much if they were to finish where they are right now. Car Rebuilds has gone ahead and made his stop on lap, what was basically his 11th racing lap. So all these drivers here are staying out 1 lap longer, going to what we believe, well, maybe 2 laps longer, is Car Rebuilds trying to take on the strategy that we saw F1R Geekin run last night. That was the driver, mind you, that Geekin built. It was Rebuilds who came home second. had faster pace, had faster speed in the last third of the race, but it all fell apart just as he was about to catch Geekin, and he could not do anything to Geekin. Has Rebuilds learned the right lessons or the wrong lessons from that? As it may be possible that Rebuilds is going to try and mimic the strategies that Geekin ran. Well, one big difference is that obviously the track is a lot warmer right now. The tire temperatures are going to be getting a lot hotter and staying a lot hotter as this goes on right now, as we are still in daytime conditions. The other thing, we have many more cars on the circuit. Last night we only had about 11 cars start the race, and we only had 9 running at the end of it. As we see right now, Carino looking to the outside of Railgun. But more cars on track means more traffic. You're not spending as much time just clicking off great laps in clean air. If Rebuilds catches the likes of Clinical and Quinn really quickly, that will tank his ability to make this stop work. Side by side for second position. The BMW is on the outside. The 4GT is on the inside. And the 67 does have the traction necessary. And for the moment, Railgun does hold on to second spot. Dex Carino still runs there in third position right now. Indy's Shadow has completely lost touch with their top 3 now. Seems like everything's just kind of going the wrong way for Shadow. He is at 60% on his tire wear right now. Just for comparison, F1R Geekin, who is your leader, he is at 58.5%. He also has a little bit of engine damage. That will slow his pit stop just a little bit, but I don't think it would be by enough to massively change things. But Geekin is doing a good job managing his tire wear. That was something that we saw he was able to do last night. It looks like he's doing it again right now. Real quickly, looking back in the grid, this is SSR Quinn running behind CLN Clinical. These two drivers are relatively close to each other on the track, but basically everyone else is pretty much spread out in some way or another right now. They're close enough where they can see each other, but they are not in a position where they can actually fight. Then you have this here, Rebirth Quinn and Car Matthews right ahead. Reminder, Car Matthews had damage. He crashed somehow on the pace lap. We didn't catch that. So Car Matthews trying to dig himself out of a hole early on. He has raced his way up into the 10th position right now. Okay, so now we look at our leaders. How many of them are going to go ahead and pit this time by? Dex Carino runs right behind Les Railgun. And here's the other question. What cars are going to be faster in pit lane? Who will take less time to refill? F1R Geekin ducking into the pits. Les Railgun's going to stay out. Railgun wants to stay out for another lap, apparently. But Dex Carino pits, Shadow pits, and F1R Geekin all pit. What of Jeff DXD back here? He is going to stay out as well. So the 4GT drivers say, we can do one more lap of this. So they are going to be on a tire advantage going forward. And mind you, this is on what will realistically be the longest stint. If you want to divide this race as close to even thirds as possible, the first stint where you have to basically go an extra lap on around the track at pace speed, that is going to be, for all intents and purposes, the hardest stint to make work. But Les Railgun and Jeff DXC do not seem fazed by it whatsoever. They are staying out. And then you have here in third place, it's Mays in the Chevrolet. He is at 64.6% tire wear right now. Again, reminder, Mays is your second place driver in the championship right now, and he is trying to lead the Chevrolet team to a manufacturer's championship as well. He's got his teammate Tempered Chip right behind him, and then Breezy Raid about another 5 seconds back. So the Chevy's trying to make something happen, as well as they're also choosing to go one lap farther. Now, we saw a similar thing happen at Kailami, where the length of the tire life in the Porsche Cup seemed to be a little bit shorter than what it was in the GT3 race. Are we seeing that again tonight, at least with some of these cars, where it seems like some of the drivers feel they can go an extra lap or two on the tires now? But the other thing to consider is that pitting early typically gives you track position. Not always, but typically it does. It does look like, though, that NDL Shadow ended up ahead of Car Rebuilds despite Rebuilds pitting early, and then F1R Geekin has ended up here behind Rebirth Quinn. He's stuck fighting with the Dodge. That is going to be quite suboptimal, depending on how aggressively that Dodge fights back. Rebirth Quint still looking to the outside. F1R Geekin there. Here's Dex Carino as well. Carino looks to the inside. Carino gonna go really aggressive. Ooh, he thought of it, but does not make it stick. And now finally Geekin clears it. Tempered Chip gets by Mays there, and they all stay out. Railgun, Jeff, Tempered Chip, and Mays all stay out another lap. What's going on? Why would you stay out this much longer? Is this the way to go? You'd think they would have pitted already, but no. So these drivers are definitely sticking to all mediums all the way through. I really thought we'd see more drivers deciding to pit early, but no, it looks like Railgun is going to stay out longer. Jeff DXD is staying out longer. Tempered Chip and Mays are also all staying out a little bit longer to try and guarantee they can make it a two-stop race. Again, this will be the roughest stint of the run for them. But still, they are trying to make it stick. Meanwhile, F1R Geekin has now finally broken away from everyone else. He's in cleaner air now, trying to scoot away from the rest of the field. Geekin trying to bring Dex Carino with him. Oh, Carino goes way off into the dirt that time by. 28 seconds is the gap between Geekin and Railgun, and Geekin is rapidly closing the gap down. A reminder, Geekin pitted early last night, and that strategy paid out great for him. But there are more cars on track now. If Geekin isn't able to spend a bunch of laps in clean air, just clicking off fast laps, this strategy is not going to work. Railgun, though, has pulled out an absurdly large gap on Jeff DXD right now, who is his teammate in the Ford. Railgun finally comes into the pits. We'll likely see Jeff, Temperchip, and Bays all pit this time as well. NDL Shadow trying to make something happen as he's gotten by Clinical. His next driver that he'll have to focus on will be Rebirth Quint. Car Rebuilds is still another 3 seconds off, so Rebuilds pitted early, but does not look like that strategy has worked out in Rebuild's favor, at least not off the way it has gone early on here. And yes, our top 5 have all pitted, so F1R Geekin will easily go into the lead here. The question is going to be Geekin versus Railgun in clean air. Who will be able to set the better laps? And is Geekin going to replicate the strategy he used to win last night? Will that strategy even work now? With more cars on track, with different temperature on the circuit as well. There was Les Railgun, you can see him briefly in the background. And here's F1R Geekin back into the lead with Dex Carino now up into second. Our tickers seem to have had a little bit of a hiccup as well now that Geekin has gone back into the lead of the event. Boy, Breezy Rain, after pitting, has fallen all the way back to 14th positions. And those Ferraris, the Maserati racer and Car Matthew, just seem to have no competitiveness whatsoever tonight. Completely irrelevant, or near completely irrelevant in qualifying. And now just in race, the Ferraris just have no pace whatsoever here at Daytona. It is very obvious that the Ford and the BMWs are in a zone of their own tonight. We do have CL and Clinical here running in 5th position in the Dodge Viper. He's only at 54% wear, but I think that may be because he may have elected to start the race on a harder tire compound, trying to make something happen here. I don't really think that's going to occur. He does have Les Railgun closing in on him. Mind you, NDL Shadow pitted earlier than Railgun, so Shadow has track position and is in basically clean air. BMWs run 1st, 2nd, and 3rd on track right now. Then Rebirth Quint here in the Dodge hangs out in 4th, side by side between Clinical and Railgun for the next position. If you wanted to make this race a one-stopper, you would have to, realistically, make yourself go to about lap 22. I don't see any chance that that happens. Well, not 22, it'd be closer to like 21, 22, somewhere around there. I don't see any way that that happens, even if Rebirth Quint and Clinical can make the car limp that far into the race. I just don't see the lack of pace they have letting that kind of strategy play out here. Well, it is Geekin and Carino at the head of the field, 2 different BMW drivers at the pointy end of the grid right now. NDL Shadow has just not been able to keep up with them, but he is ahead of the Ford GTs right now. Rebirth Quint still keeping Les Railgun behind for the moment. Again, we think the Ford GTs may be on the more conventionally ideal strategy, but Geekin showed last night that medium hard might be the way to go. And now Rebirth Quint can't really do anything back against Les Railgun, and Railgun now goes back to the lead here. Well, not to the lead, but back to 4th here. This is a little bit farther back. It's Mays in the Chevrolet running the same kind of 2-stop strategy right now, but he is nowhere close to his championship rivals. And to add insult to injury, he is nowhere close to the manufacturer rivals of Ford, who are all running right now in the top, well, 2 of them are running the top 7 positions, and the next one's up there in 9th right now. So right now, Ford is soundly beating Chevrolet on track. It is not looking good for Mays and the Chevrolet team at the moment. as he is running behind teammate Tempered Ship right now, who is also trying to make something happen. He can see Jeff DXD ahead of him, but he's not close enough to make anything happen. Not close enough to close the gap down. Les Railgun has pulled open about 1.2 seconds on Car Rebuilds. His Rebuilds now passes Rebirth Quint. But it's going to be a while before Les Railgun catches NDL Shadow. And mind you, Geekin and Carino at the front of the field are just clicking off great laps right now. No issue at the head of the grid. This is Jeff DXD fighting with SSR Quinn. No, that wasn't Jeff DXD. That was Tempered Ship. So these duos now dealing with the dodge of SSR Quinn. And Maze goes by. Quinn just does not seem to have anything as they push the tires too far. 64%. Being on worn out hards is probably the worst circumstance you can be in this game. And Quinn has now fallen out of the top 10 positions on track. Their teammate CL in Clinical runs in 7th position, but they are still in clean air for the moment. Railgun's continuing to open the gap that he has on Car Rebuilds. So Les Railgun easily the fastest driver here. And here we are. They are coming in. Clinical has gone 18 laps, realistically 17 laps and a pace lap, but 18 laps on the hard tires. You do 17 and 17, that takes you to 34. Then you could throw on soft tires. Hard, soft is not a strategy, though, I feel would give you any significant advantage. I feel like the Dodges may have just kind of been cutting off their nose to spite their face. They tried so hard to make an alternate strategy work that was just never going to play out here. They have also been joined the pits by TCPP Photo. So for a moment, that will put Maserati Racer and Carl Matthews ahead of them. But I don't think it will really change. I think on sheer pace, the Ferraris just don't really have much of a chance to crack the top 10 in today's event. Jeff DXD still runs in no man's land right now, but he can see Rebirth Quint, who is still out here. He is going another lap on these harder tires. He's only at 62% right now. So Rebirth Quint is going 18 laps. 18 and 18 would take you to 36. That's still nowhere enough for Rebirth Quint to make this a one-stop race. And even if it was a one-stop race, it's not like that would significantly benefit him. The lack of pace is just going to mean that he can't really do anything for the entire event. We have been running clean and green the entire time, though. There was an accident on the pace lap for Carl Matthews. But other than that, we believe that TCPP Photo may have had an incident of his own as well. But other than that, it has been clean and green the entire race. Although there has been lots of bumping and banging, our main focus had been at the front of the grid earlier on. And as we say that, look at this duo of Geekin and Carino running first and second at the head of the grid. NDL Shadow hangs out in 3rd position. Les Railgun is 4th. Rebuilds is 5th. Rebirth Quint back down there in 6th spot. And now Rebirth Quint finally pits just before he would have been caught by Jeff DXD. So Rebirth Quint went 18 racing laps plus 1 pace lap on a set of hard tires. That was an impressive feat. The sad thing is, though, I don't really see anywhere where that's going to benefit him over the rest of this run. Unless we get a yellow flag with like 18 laps to go. In that case, I guess Rebirth Quint could confidently say, okay, well, I could make that happen. Closing in on the race's halfway point right now. Still nothing from Carino and Geekin. They seem to be content in running first and second on track right now. Will that change later? Real quickly, we look at the tire wear. Geekin, who is your leader, is at 32.5% tire wear on that right rear. For Carino, who is right behind, it is 32 flat on the right rear. So Carino is doing slightly better on tire management. Then NDL Shadow, way back here in 3rd, one of your championship contenders, 33% on the right rear. Not as good as the leaders. And then you have Les Railgun hanging out in 4th. He pitted later. He's got a significant tire advantage, 22.8% right now. He has a massive track position disadvantage We saw car rebuilds in this position against Geekin last night, but there, rebuilds had a much bigger gap between themselves and Geekin. Railgun, the gap between himself and Geekin, not quite as big at this point in the race as where it was between rebuilds and Geekin last night. And car rebuilds, speaking of which, is pitting now. Why is car rebuilds selecting a pit? Is there damage on the car or something? Oh, engine damage, and that's likely going to take car rebuilds out of any sort of seriously strong contention here at Daytona. So this puts Jeff DXT up into the 5th spot on track, and he's got It's Maze in the Chevrolet trying to close down on him. So 140GT slides out of the top positions, and now It's Maze in the Chevrolet goes up into 6 as he is still trying to keep his championship hopes in both teams and in both manufacturers and drivers alive. Les Railgun is about 8.5 seconds away from F1R Geekin right now. Down the back straightaway, Carino looks to the inside of Geekin, but is still not putting any serious pressure on them. They seem to be content to just do some drafting shenanigans to try and stay away from the rest of the grid here. Still, the gap is about 8.5 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and while we do, we will ride on board with F1R Geekin for a flying lap around Daytona International Speedway here. Actually, I'm going to wait a lap. I want to wait just a little bit longer. I want to see if we get a chance to see if Railgun runs down Shadow before this lap is over. We're not going to go to break yet. I want to wait and see here. The other thing to keep an eye on, car rebuilds closing in on Car Matthews here, was in that Ferrari that was damaged lap 1. So rebuilds, one of the faster Fords in the field, trying to recover from engine damage. Matthews, one of the 2 Ferraris in the field, trying to recover from a lap 1 accident. So this is something else I just want to keep AI on right now. Coming down to the start-finish straight this time by. Rebuild still has not caught Matthews. And no, it doesn't look like Railgun is closing on Shadow by any massive amount right now. Oh, and there's contact. Ford on Ferrari contact there going into turn 1. Matthews not really able to do anything against Rebuilds, and Rebuilds goes right by the Ferrari with no issue whatsoever. Jeff DXT has just about been caught by It's Maze here. Ford and Chevy vying for 5th position. Out of Speedway turn 2 and now down the back straightaway. Does Maze have anything for Jeff? Closes in a little bit under braking, got very aggressive under braking, pulls up right behind the rear wing of that number 55 Ford. Does the Chevy have the speed to try and make something happen on the outside? Again, every position that Maze can pick up now will pay great dividends for him and his team going forward here. Looks to the outside, coming out of the banked corner of Speedway turn 4. Side by side, Ford on Chevy. Coming across the line. Maze just barely has the nose ahead of Jeff. A little bit of door-on-door contact as they go into the braking zone. And Maze is wide. Maze could not keep it there. Oh, yeah, he can't keep it there. And Jeff holds on to 5th for a little bit longer that time by. Les Railgun is not closing on Geekin at all. If anything, the gap between Railgun and Geekin is now opening up. So the fight for the race win looks like it's going to be over. Because even though Railgun has a tire advantage, he is not actually doing anything to Geekin, who is leading. The drafting shenanigans at the head of the field are proving a little bit too powerful, it seems. So we are looking at a near guaranteed repeat of last night. The only question, though, of course, will be, will Dex Carino try to fight with Geekin, or will he be content to come home 1-2 on the run to the end here? A little bit of a push by Carino as they come into the braking zone. It's little bit of shoves, little punches like that. It's one of those things that drivers in NASCAR circles in this game are very familiar with. We see all the time in NASCAR, drivers will give each other big shoves Now, yeah, it's not as much of a shove advantage as it would have been in the last game, but it does help with lap times. I wonder if now we're going to start seeing that be a factor here in GT3 races. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and while we do, we are going to spend a full lap on board with F1R Geekin, the driver who is almost fated to win our race tonight. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Daytona. Closing in with about 19 laps to go, so we have passed this race's halfway point. The sun is setting, but it is not completely dark like it was last night, though. Geekin continues to lead. Railgun runs in fourth, but the gap between Geekin and Railgun continues to slowly open up. There's also the fight between Maze and Jeff. Side by side between the Ford and the Chevy. The Chevy gets such a great run the straights, pulls up right alongside the Ford GT, but in the braking zone, the Ford GT seems to be second to none, and Maze just cannot get by this Ford. Reminder, Maze's championship rivals are running third and fourth right now. So Maze needs to pick up this position. He also needs something to happen to the likes of Railgun and Shadow in order to keep his championship hopes alive. There's also the issue with car rebuilds, who had to pit off sequence, off strategy, which has plummeted a Ford GT down the grid here. But still, Chevy's run 6th, 7th, and 8th on track right now, while Ford's run 4th, 5th, and 9th. And BMWs are on track to sweep the weekend at the moment. But Les Railgun is catching NDL Shadow right now. Shadow might not be in the position to fight for race wins, but this will be a fight for the championship. Shadow on Railgun as they're coming down to the start-finish line once again. And for Railgun, this is going to be bad news. He does not have anyone to work with, and while Geekin and Carino are doing some drafting shenanigans, giving each other a little bit of shoves down the straightaways to cheat extra speed into their cars, Shadow does not have that ability, and Railgun has no one to work with him on that either. It's going to be those little bump shoves that is going to be what decides this race tonight. Even though I do think that you would be able to reasonably argue that Railgun is on a better strategy and has the pace normally to make it stick, Geekin has teammates that are willing to, at least for now, sacrifice their race in order to make this happen. And now we're seeing Shadow getting very aggressive here with Railgun. To be fair, Railgun is getting very aggressive back, forcing his way by a little bit of big door-to-door contact, and Shadow is wide, and Railgun goes through. I do not have time to fight with you. I've got to make something happen here. For Railgun, the race win is likely out of contention, but he is on track to finish ahead of NDL Shadow, and that would help Railgun's quest in the Drivers' Championship. What of the fight in the Manufacturers Championship? It is Mays looking at the rear wing of Jeff DXD right now. According to the ticker, is about a 3 1/3 tenths, so about a third of a second between the two. Geekin and Carino now pit lap 26. So they're pitting with 16 laps to go. So is Geekin and Carino, is that duo going to throw on the hard compound tire going forward now? Indy El Shadow now goes ahead and pits as well. Les Railgun staying out on track. We may be seeing a repeat of last night, but Railgun seems to be a little bit faster than Rebuilds. But the problem is, it doesn't matter how much faster he is, he does not have teammates giving him bump draft shoves down the straightaways, and that will be what keeps him out of it. We're watching this fight right now between what is now turned into a fight for podium. It won't stay a fight for the podium for the rest of the race, but a fight for podium positions between Jeff and Mays at the head of this grid. After pitting, how far behind everyone else is this duo of Geekin and Carino going to be behind the rest of the grid? Well, no one else is going to be around them. They're going to be back in clean air. So they had to do a little bit of fighting coming out of pit road last time, but they do not have to worry about it this time. Again, we look at this fight between Jeff and Mays. Real quick, let's look at their tire wear right now. Jeff, 53.3% in the tires. Mays, who runs right behind him, is at 55.6%. Yeah, Mays is absolutely killing his tires, trying to make something happen against Jeff. The Ford GT being such a master with downforce, a master under braking. Sure, the Chevy is in a position where he can do some kinds of big runs, but that's just not going to be enough around here. You need to be able to outbrake into the corners, and you're just not able to outbrake that Ford GT into the corners. But the Chevy has a good run coming out of the bus stop chicane that time. Gets right behind the Ford GT again. Real quick, let's look at the penalties thus far. Jeff DXD has 0.9 seconds. Mays has none. Temper Chip has 1.9 seconds. Geekin has 0.7. Carino has 2.2 seconds of time penalties. Breezy Rain has none. Shadow, 7 seconds of time penalties right now. Side by side between the two, and now the lights have turned on. We are officially entering the nighttime period. But that outside overtake is never going to happen with that Chevrolet. It does not have the grip to make it stick, or does it? Can he make it stick this time by? The car slides out from under him. No, he cannot make it stick. Still trapped behind the Ford GT. But Jeff has time penalties that Mays does not have. And as we have seen so many times in the series, the time penalties disincentivizes making on-track overtakes. Instead, it incentivizes you just staying behind the driver you're chasing and just letting the penalties give you the results back. That was the big takeaway from the Suzuka race weekend a few weeks back. Just don't fight. Don't make overtakes on track. Just hang out behind the person with more penalties and let it come to you post-race. And we may see Mays playing the same strategy right now against Jeff DXC, especially after what happened over the Kailami weekend last weekend, where it was formally announced that it does not matter what the game says, even if it was a bullcrap penalty, officials will not remove game-given penalties. It was a very controversial decision, but Mays is really going to milk that for all it's worth. He may not have to fight to make the overtake happen against Jeff. All he may have to do is just stay on the Ford GT's rear wing when they come across the line and let that play the rest of the race out for him. Our tickers at the head of the field continue to seem to be a bit broken right now for whatever reason. And farther back in the grid, there's just not been a lot of overtaking going on, or even a lot of real battling. The focus has really been at the head of this grid today. Big slide by Mays. I think his tires has really gotten the best of him. Les Railgun is your leader. Lap traffic might be a factor later in the race, but not going to be a factor anytime soon. Question, of course, is going to be Geekin versus Railgun. Geekin pitted earlier, but has he replicated the strategy from last night? Thrown on the hard tires and going to try and let the race come to him off the back of that. We look at penalties. Geekin has earned some penalties, but only 0.7 seconds worth of penalties right now. And based off of what we saw in the fight between Rebuilds and Geekin last night, 0.7 seconds is not anywhere near enough to be concerned. Geekin had finished last night's race with a little bit over a second of time penalties, and it just didn't matter because he crossed the line with about 3.5 seconds over second place. So even if Railgun is faster, I don't think he's going to be fast enough to really capitalize on Geekin's struggles. And even if he is, he'll have to deal with Carino, the teammate. And it does seem like Carino is willing to throw away his race to just put everything into helping Geekin out. And Les Railgun now pits with 14 laps to go. So Les Railgun is indeed doing the more conventional all medium tires all the way through strategy. Geekin potentially going to try and do something wild. Try and make this sweep the weekend on the same strategy. Everyone in the top four have all pitted at the same time. Between Jeff and Maze, I'm a little bit curious. Between these two, who's going to end up coming out of pit lane first? Oh, Maze only just now got into the pit box. No, that wasn't Maze. That was Tempered Ship. And it looks like Jeff is going to still be ahead of Maze as they come out of pit lane this time. There goes NDL Shadow and Carl Rebuilds. But remember, Rebuilds had massive engine damages, had to get off sequence. He's just in the recovery mode right now. Les Railgun, his gap to the leaders is 7.8 seconds. He is closer, not by much, but he is slightly closer than where Car Rebuilds was to Geekin at this point last night in the Porsche Cup race. At this stage of the race, everyone except for Maserati Racer, Rebirth Quint, and CLN Clinical and SSR Quint have made their second stops thus far. And Mace is still stuck behind Jeff DXE. They have Cars Matthews behind them as well for the moment. But Cars Matthews is on alternate strategy, not really going to be able to fight with them. It will be 13 laps to go when our leaders hit the line. Car Rebuilds and Shadow seem to be in a little bit of a fight of their own. Or less of a fight, more of a stalking battle. But Rebuilds is on a suboptimal strategy. Shadow is on the medium, what we believe is the medium hard strategy. Now, he does not have the pace to keep up with Railgun, we believe. He is 4 seconds behind Railgun. And if Shadow is on the harder compound tire like we believe, he's only going to continue to lose time until we get to the very end of this. So Shadow should be able to inherit fourth without any issue off the back of Rebuilds. Car Matthews and Maserati Racer and the Ferraris make their final stops now with 13 laps left. I'm sorry to say, but the Ferraris just do not have any competitiveness within them tonight. Any chance at cracking the top 10 is basically irrelevant. They have no shot at cracking the top 10 unless drivers like Breezy Rain or CLN Clinical just make massive blunders throughout the rest of this run tonight. And it does seem like Shadow is letting Rebuilds run off, knowing that this position is going to come back to him sooner rather than later. Still, Geekin and Carino run at the head of the field. Every now and again, we see Carino pull up behind Geekin and give him a bit of a shove. It's not every lap. It's not super consistently, but it's enough that is helping Geekin out. And Railgun just is not closing by any significant margin now. And even if he did, it wouldn't matter. He would be at a massive tire disadvantage near the end of this run. He would need to be closing in by a second to lap now, so that way he could still afford to fight for this win in the closing laps of this race. We're going to spin a lap on board with Railgun as we take an ad break here at Daytona. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Daytona. We are in the final third of the race. Railgun has picked up the pace as he is now trying to run down Geekin and Carino. Assuming that those drivers are running the same strategy we saw Geekin do last night, I don't think there's any chance that Railgun steals the win. But he may not be after the win. Reminder, he has a championship to think of. And he has no time penalties. Carino has over 2.5 seconds worth of penalties. Can Railgun get close enough to maybe steal second place off of Carino near the end of this race to really put some extra oomph into his championship humps? We know that NDL Shadow is all but guaranteed fourth as long as he can pull out a big enough gap on Jeff DXD. Maze is likely going to come home in the fifth or in the sixth or seventh position, likely closer to sixth. Based off of penalties against Jeff, we don't really know where Maze will be in relation to Shadow off the back of penalties. We'll get a better idea how that turns out later in the event, because remember, Shadow is also on that medium, hard strategy, we believe, while Maze is on all mediums all the way through. So Maze and Jeff will also have some significant pace fall off near the end of the race as well, but Shadow has over 7 seconds of time penalties right now. Could Maze keeping it clean help him out in his championship hopes? Well, it would help him a bit, but Railgun has also kept it absolutely clean, and Railgun, barring some sort of catastrophic self-inflicted error, is all but guaranteed a podium. Less than 6 seconds between Railgun and Geekin, with 9 laps to go. Sorry, 10 laps to go, actually. Again, Railgun may not have to fight. If he can just get close enough to get the draft off of Carino and steal second position to help his championship hopes out. Reminder, the Ford team is also fighting for the Manufacturers' Championship as well. Again, as I look at the standings, Ford is second in the championship with 419 points and 4 wins. Chevy is leading with 487 points. But with Railgun running up here in third, we know Carl Rebuilds is going to have to pit, so he's going to plummet down the grid. But then it will be Maze, Tempered Chip. They will move up to likely 6th and 7th spot, I believe, for a bit. And then Carl Rebuilds will have to be digging deep. I don't know. Railgun's basically trying to put the Ford camp on his back right now. Trying to make something happen for the Ford team in the Teams Championship as well. Again, Railgun already entered this race with a 17-point lead over Maze, and Maze does not have any answer to Railgun today. The Chevys just have... They've been fine, but they have nothing compared to what the BMWs and the Fords have today. Or I should say tonight, since we are definitely at the night stage of the race now. So Railgun likely going to continue to open his championship lead tonight. So the little bit of the blunder, not a massive blunder, but the little bit of a blunder that Railgun suffered last week at Kailami, definitely going to be removed after tonight's race. But Maze is still keeping things alive. All right, Cars Rebuilds making his stop now, and he'll be able to throw on the soft tires to the end of this race. Now, we don't know how far back he's going to fall down the grid, but he's definitely going to be behind Jeff and Maze. Will he be behind Tempered Chip or Breezy Rain? If he can get by Breezy Rain, that helps Ford out in the manufacturer. If he can get by Tempered Chip, that really helps Ford out in the manufacturers. All right, Car Rebuilds now coming down to start-finish straight, but you can already see Tempered Chip has just gone by him there. Rebirth Quint has also gone ahead and made their stuff, so they're throwing on the softs now. Breezy Rain here in this Chevrolet. Can he get by Car Rebuilds? He does. Through turn 1. Powering his way through. All right, Breezy Rain for the moment has cleared Car Rebuilds. So Chevys go back to being 6th, 7th, and 8th on track right now. The gap between Shadow and Jeff on track is 8 seconds in Shadow's favor. So that would be enough for Shadow to outrun the current amount of time penalties he'll have. Also, Les Railgun has closed the gap down to less than 5 seconds on the top 2. But that would not be enough. As again, we look at the penalties. He needs to cut it in half again just to catch Carino. We know that there is no chance for Railgun to steal the win off of Geekin. The medium, hard strategy, even if I feel that that's not the ideal strategy, it's a lot more ideal when you have a driver willing to throw his entire race away to play rear gunner and just shove Geekin around the circuit. For Railgun, he wants to try and get second to boost his driver's championship lead and to close the Ford camp down on Chevys for manufacturers. Railgun now within 4.5 seconds. But the tires, those medium tires that he's on, are at 29% right now. For comparison, Geekin, his tires, 33%. And the gap in tire life is only going to continue to go in Railgun's favor for about another 2 laps, and then we'll swap back to Geekin, and Geekin will be the one with the upper hand. And assuming we stay green to the end, I think we'll be able to stay green to the end. And if we stay green to the end, we will stay with this race to the checkered flag. There will not be any other ad breaks here. Clinical, Diesel, and Quinn all have pitted now, so they'll throw on soft tires and run that to the end. So briefly, that will put Cars Matthews up to 10th, and Maserati Racer up to 11th. So maybe there's an outside chance that Ferrari gets a top 10 result anyway tonight. We also have TCPP Photo running in 16th position in the Aston Martin camp. Points go down to the top 6. Oh, let me double verify here. Now, I'm not talking out my rear. Let me make sure I'm giving you the proper information here. Points format. Yeah, points are given to the top 15 right now. And Photo right in 16th position, just not in a spot to earn any points unless SSR Quinn has an issue. Again, points are awarded 40, 36, 33, 30, 27, 24, 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1 for the top 15 finishers. And Photo not in a position to take home any points tonight. Frustrating for him, to say the least. Railgun has now got that gap down to less than 4 seconds. And more notably, I feel, Carino is having trouble keeping up with Geekin around the circuit. He's not right under Geekin's rear wing like we saw in the daytime. Now that's gone tonight, Carino seems to have a little bit more trouble being behind Geekin and giving him the nice big shoves. But still, Carino has enough of a gap on Railgun that he would still be able to come home in second. So here's the real question. If Geekin gets another time penalty, does Carino throw his reservations out the race and try to get physical with Geekin near the end of this race? We know that these two should have a massive tire life advantage near the very end here. There it is. There's Carino closed in and got a big shove on Geekin just before the braking zone. Just gave Geekin a little bit of a lunge forward before they broke. And those kind of shoves, those kind of pushes are the main thing that is ensuring that Geekin is going to win this race. Carino is not pushing for any moves. He's not trying to pull up alongside. He's not trying to take alternate lines. He just gets behind Geekin every now and again on these longer straights and gives Geekin a little shove down the straightaways to push that BMW further ahead. You could just about see him try to make it happen there as well. Oh, but Carino was wide that time. Didn't have the greatest time in turn 1, and neither did Geekin. It's 6 laps to go now. Railgun is a little bit closer than where his teammate, Car Rebuilds, was in the Porsche Cup race last night. But the frustration is much, much higher right now. However, the stakes are significantly lower. Last night, Geekin and Rebuilds were both fighting for their first win in the Porsche Cup Series. Tonight, Geekin's fighting for a win, Carino's fighting for a win, but the BMWs aren't really in the championship hunt, neither drivers or manufacturers. Railgun is fighting for the manufacturers and drivers, but Railgun is all but guaranteed to finish ahead of his title rivals. So the bare minimum requirements that he needs to do for the championship, drivers championship, is done. And for the manufacturers championship, it's not great, but I do think he'll be in a decent position going forward, especially because Car Rebuilds back there in 8th is going to be on soft tires, running down tempered ship in 7th. I think Car Rebuilds may still be able to snipe 7th position and break up some of the Chevrolet strengths there. The other thing as well is that It's Maze has kind of lost touch a bit to Jeff DXD, And if you look at the penalties between them, it's still 0.9 seconds against Jeff. But if Mays can't be right behind Jeff's rear wing when they come across the start-finish line to finish this race, that time penalty may not be enough. The other thing, though, Indy El Shadow in 4th. He is now up to 8 seconds worth of time penalty. 8 seconds worth of time penalty. And he is only 5 seconds ahead of Jeff and Mays. So Jeff might get a 4th, or Mays might get a 5th, depending on how the rest of this race plays out. Railgun now down to 3 seconds out from the leaders, but he is now at the significant tire disadvantage. He is already at 43.4% on the tire life. And Geekin, who is leading on the harder compound tires, is at 44%. Quite literally a case of same song, second verse, comparing last night to tonight. Railgun has now cut the gap down to within 3 seconds. He's almost close enough to be within penalty countback range against Dex Carino. He is not close enough to get within penalty countback range of F1R Geekin. And even if he was close enough, that's not going to be enough. At bare minimum, he has to be in the draft of these two if he wants to make it happen. And that shove right there by Carino on Geekin is the kind of thing that ensures that that will not happen tonight. There was controversy earlier in the Discord server, in the BMW camp. X Monaco said that it would be required that the fastest driver would have to be registered as the number 1 driver, the second fastest would have to be registered as the second driver, and the third fastest would have to be the reserve driver. There was some controversy that Indy El Shadow would not be happy about that arrangement, being knocked down to a reserve driver despite being in the midst of the championship fight. But to his credit, Shadow might still have a top 4 result coming. And in this race, where the BMWs are probably the class of the field, being 4th fastest is not the worst thing to happen. Jeff and Mays. That is the other real fight to keep an eye on. Mays needs to try and keep the nose of that car clean to the checkers, and he has to stay right behind Jeff to the checkered flag as well if he wants to snipe this position, to try and help the Chevrolet team out in their quest for the Manufacturers' Championship. Railgun has got within 2.5 seconds of the leader now. He is definitely close enough that if the race was to finish right now, Railgun would steal second from Dex Carino. But tires are going to start falling off of that Ford fast. We saw the Son and Dance last night. The other thing to keep in mind, car rebuilds. Another Ford trying to rush his way up the grid to maybe run down Tempered Ship in the closing laps of the race as well. Between them, Tempered Ship has more than 3 times the penalty that Cars Rebuilds has right now, so that is something else that could really help. And as I've said before, penalties disincentivize overtakes, because you don't have to do anything on track. You can just hang out behind the driver ahead of you and just let the race give you the result afterwards. We've seen that already this season at Suzuka. I think the biggest example was the 2019 F1 race at Canada, but we've seen it in this very series earlier this season at Suzuka. Les Railgun now 2 seconds out of the lead. Now less than 2 seconds. With 3 laps to go, though. You look at the tire life. You look at the tire wear. Railgun already in the 52% range. F1R Geekin, your leader, 51%. So both these drivers are burning off the tires. And definitely, I think you can argue that Railgun is faster than Rebuilds was. Granted, we are looking at different cars, and the race is played out a little bit differently due to differences in track temperatures and stuff. The balancing of the cars may have something to do with it as well. But Les Railgun is closing in. If Railgun can catch the draft off of these two, if he can catch the draft off of these two, that would massively help him. But in that case, what would the strategy be from Carino? As Carino gives Geekin another gigantic shove down the back straightaway once more. Railgun within a second and a half of the lead. That would be enough that if these three finished where they are right now, Railgun wouldn't just steal second from Carino, he would steal the win from Geekin. Coming down to the line, it will be 2 laps to go. The tires are rapidly falling off on all 3 of the tires, but Railgun is going to be dealing with much worse tire wear though. Can he be close enough to still steal second at the end of this race? Through turn 1 again. The gap opens up a bit and then closes back down. And between Jeff and Mays, side by side between Chevy and Ford at the line once more. With the Ford ahead, the Chevy trapped on the outside line but not able to do anything. I think Mays feels the pressure and he is still side by side with the Ford GT as they come out of turn 1, but can't keep it through that little bit of an S in turn 2, but he's gonna go deep, going into the International Horseshoe, and backs out because he doesn't want to make contact. And Cara Rebuilds has gotten by Breezy Rain and is now trying to close down on Tempered Ship. Les Railgun is a second and a quarter out from the duo of Geekin and Carino. Is he going to get close enough to get the draft off of this duo? If he's close enough to get the draft off of this duo, he might steal the win off the back of penalty management. Geekin is trying to play same song, different verse, but I don't know if it's going to happen. And there is one other wild card to consider, and that is TCPP Photo, who is about to go a lap down. Yes, this series has blue flags, but where the leaders catch Photo will have a big impact on this all. If they catch him in a straight line, not really too much of a problem. If they catch him in the infield, or heaven forbid the bus stop, that could be all it takes to deny Geekin and Carino their shot at the 1-2 finish here. Coming down, white flag in the air. Geekin has led the vast majority of the race, doing the same strategy that netted him a win last night in the Porsche Cup event. But Railgun might still be close enough to steal the win off of penalty countback. A bit of a slide coming out of turn 1 by Geekin. That was not the greatest one run through turn 2 there. Again, it's not like Geekin has no tire fall off. He is at 58% tire life right now. But Les Railgun, who is running them down, is at 62% as well. Can Railgun stay close enough? I don't think the win is seriously in play for Railgun. I think he is just looking at second from Carino. Where are they going to catch that traffic in the form of TCPP Photo? Ooh, that was Geekin a little bit wide off circuit once again there. This is probably the closest that gap is going to get, 1.2 seconds. Now onto the straightaways. This is where the BMWs are at their strongest at. Flagman has the checkered flag in hand. TCPP Photo up the road far enough. I don't think the BMWs are going to catch Photo. So I think that would mean the entire field will finish on the lead lap here. Again, Carino gives Geekin a massive shove down the back straightaway into the bus stop chicane. The final braking zone of the race. Railgun didn't get a good run out of there that time either. This is likely going to be enough. Unless I've calculated wrong, I think Geekin's still going to win this race. It's going to come down to penalty countback. Geekin versus Railgun, but the penalties, I think, will swing it just barely in Geekin's favor or not. The gap's not opening big enough. Checkered flag's in the air. BMW will be the first two to cross the line, but your winner is at Railgun. It is! Railgun wins! Railgun, your championship leader, wins in the Ford GT! NDL Shadow is going to come home, will be a fourth across the line, but the penalty countback is going to shunt him behind Jeff DXD. And It's Maze is too far back to do anything to Jeff. Jeff is going to do the bare minimum to bring it home to a fourth place result. Maze can only come home in fifth. The Chevys take a horrendous knock as well. And the manufacturers, as Cars Rebuilt got by Temper Ship and Breezy Rain. The Chevys have lost a huge chunk of points to the manufacturers. And somehow, Les Railgun, he heard that Ecuador was playing the same song, different verse. And Railgun was not perturbed by it at all. He was not concerned. He was not scared. And he went out there and let his strength at playing the racetrack clean and green play in his favor. Les Railgun has pulled off the impossible and beaten Ecuador Geekin at his own game here at Daytona. We're going to take a Twitch mandated ad break here, and when we come back, I'm going to try and get some interviews with our top finishers, but Xbox parties have been an absolute nightmare today, and I don't know if they're going to work.